So recently, the Yeti Fruit has been added to the Blox Fruits collection. However, is it any good, and is it worth buying or grinding? I'm Barrel, and in today's video, I'll be answering that exact question, while also reviewing and giving the Yeti Fruit a fair score from 1 to 10. Make sure to like the video and subscribe with post notifications enabled to never miss another video. But with that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. Alright, so first things first, this fruit is enabled like basically every other fruit. You go into the shop, you go into the fruit shop, and here you can see the Yeti Fruit. It's 3,000 Robux, which is around like $30 US. But that's of course the permanent version. You can obviously get it like every other way. The fruit dealer, trading, basically every other way that exists on the planet. It is a mythical fruit as well, which means that it's it's supposed to be one of the best in the game. And it also has 4 different skills. Well, this technically makes it 5, but we don't count the transformation since I don't have it. I will show it in the later parts of the video though, just so you can like take a look at it. Let's just get some pros and cons out of the way with this new fruit. So one of the pros is that it's a great support fruit. It's kind of like an upgraded version of ice. So here you can see it. It has like a lot of ice attack, similar to ice attacks. Like that, you got the glacial execution. It looks really cool. I love the animation of this thing. There are so many players here. What the f? So mechanically speaking, since it has 5 different skills, it does make it quite unique in that aspect. And the skills themselves are like pretty fun. So here's the Arctic clap ability. It's not really a clap really, but and here's the frostbite boulder. Just a huge snowball. And once again, here's the glacial execution. Here's the tundra rush. So definitely something that you should keep in mind is that these aren't like the strongest things in the game for sure. The skills are like pretty weak, honestly. But the aesthetic itself looks really cool. I definitely like the way that these abilities look. They're super like detailed, really. I just like that a lot. So if you're into this kind of aesthetic, definitely consider rolling for this fruit. But should you buy it? Well, let's see. A couple of cons is that it's horrible for grinding. This is not an elemental fruit. This is a beast fruit. So that just means that you transform into something when you use the transformation ability. So this makes it already just a really big turnoff for many of the fan base for the game. So I definitely wouldn't recommend you get this fruit or roll for it if you're just grinding. And I mean, this is kind of like, again, the thing with, you probably shouldn't grind this this fruit if you're a beginner, or not really a beginner, but you're kind of like in that middle stage where I'm at right now in C2. You probably shouldn't grind this fruit. It's very, very time consuming. You really probably should just focus on something like Buddha, for example. It's a much more useful fruit. Now this thing is like pretty weak, but that's again because it's sort of like what ice is. It's not necessarily supposed to be a huge damage output type fruit, but again, that just completely limits your ability to grind with it. And also it's really inefficient for PvE. Again, it takes like so many hits just to get 1 kill with this thing. So it's definitely more of something that you should probably consider if you're in the late stage of the game. Now let's just go over the things that you probably should keep in mind, and there's quite a lot. So as mentioned before, this is more of a support fruit, so you should probably pair it with a pretty strong sword. But if you have it already fully leveled up, then definitely pair it with your sword for some good damage output. Of course, if you're only trying to get kills with this thing, and then you're not actually trying to grind it. Now this thing isn't really that good with transportation, For example, the smoke fruit, which is one of the cheapest fruits in the entire game. It has like the smoke bomb ability, which gives you the flight ability. So this thing doesn't have any of that. It just has its transformation as the biggest component of it. There are definitely better options if you're planning to use real money or Robux. If you're trying to buy it, then you should probably save it. I mentioned this with my Darkblade review, but there's much better options for cheaper. For example, if we go into the fruit shop, for less money, you can buy the gas fruit, which is 500 Robux cheaper, and it's actually good for grinding because it's an elemental fruit. So if you're maybe not like really considering buying a fruit with real money, but you really want this fruit, the most I'll tell you is just to keep rolling for it and look at the fruit dealer in the future. He might possibly have this fruit. Now, I would definitely, if you are planning to buy it, and if you already like set on to buy this fruit, just consider how this fruit is gonna hold up in the future. There are so many like things that might happen to this fruit. Balancing changes, it might get nerfed, it might just become completely useless with new fruits. So definitely consider those kinds of things if you're trying to buy this fruit. Since once again, this is a new fruit, so anything can happen to it really. And again, if you're still in that C1, mid C2 stage of the game, just if you're still grinding, save your Robux or at least buy an elemental fruit if you're already like set on using money. Don't buy this fruit, it's not very good for grinding at all, and I learned that the hard way actually, because I had this fruit for a really long time. My grinding progression just went completely downhill after I started using this fruit. That's pretty much everything that you might want to consider if you're buying this fruit. And just to quickly go over everything, it's 3,000 Robux, aka $30, something like it actually. It's not very good for grinding, but it does have some really cool abilities here that you should definitely consider if you're kind of into that aesthetic. And lastly, it is a new fruit, so anything can happen to it. It can get nerfed, it can get buffed, it can be useless, anything can happen to it. So definitely just keep those things in mind for when you're planning to buy this fruit. Well, after that, would I recommend that you buy this fruit with Robux or grind it if you already got it for free? Truly, it depends on your current situation. If you're fine with limiting your progression for the sake of grinding the fruit, you should definitely keep grinding it, or maybe even consider buying it. As for if you're planning on buying it with Robux, there are much better alternatives. For players who are still at C1 or just started C2, I'd stick to elemental fruits. They're much better for grinding. And because of this, I'll give the Yeti Fruit a 6 out of 10. Overall, a pretty good support fruit, but seeing as it's a mythical, I expect much more from it. And with that said, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed this review or at all found it helpful, make sure that you support me by clicking the like button and subscribing with post notifications on so you never miss another upload. But this has been Boral the Barrel, and I'll see you in the next video.